Good morning and welcome to the podcast. This is Erin. I am so excited today because I just felt like God has given me a peace over a certain area, and no doubt will I have to revisit the words that He gave me this morning. But there was just something that was kind of like came across my mind, came across my heart this morning about moms and social media. And I was really thinking back to when I was a mom of two. I would just have to say that that was a very, very lonely time for me. They were both very little. I didn't have a whole lot of mom friends. I wasn't involved in, a church community at that time. I did have a few friends, but as far as like really having somebody to connect to, at that time I had lost, all of my other friends who, they didn't have children yet, and some of them still don't, and that's okay. But it just seemed like there was this huge transition shift for me, and there was a big void, and it was obvious that that void was friends. And so, like I said, it was a very, very lonely time for me. And I just, I thought back to that this morning, and I thought, would social media have helped me then, or would it have hurt me navigating those waters of going from no friends? I now am a mom looking for other mom friends, to having friends, having other mom friends. Would that have been an aid, or would that have been a hindrance to me? Because just like anything in life, God can use it for good, or we can allow Satan to use it for bad. And so in the realm of social media and mom friends, really, I feel like I've fallen on many ends of the spectrum of this and anywhere in between. And so I've thought, oh, she hates me because I've posted this and she's posted that. Now I'm a mom of 8, and so I have a little bit more perspective into this. But that's where I've fallen, or we're such good friends, we agree on these things. So if I see her in person and I say hi, she's going to be just as excited to see me as I am her. Well, that's not true either. And then you kind of have these people who, you just kind of float in and out of relationship with through Facebook and the similar posts that you share or comments that you make. And you're like, yeah, this is the thing. And then in real life, you realize, I don't think this person is actually my friend. And what does that mean? What does that mean? Should I be friends with them on Facebook? Should I not be friends with them on Facebook? How should I go about interacting with them in the future, in real life versus on social media? Is my community that I'm building, or the friends that I have around me, are they really supportive of me or not? Is that based off of the likes or the hearts that I get on my posts? Wow, so many questions, so many thoughts. I think that I just brought up like a dozen more than what I even thought of this morning, but I wanted to address some of that because, again, back to the question of, as a young mom of 2, going from, having friends, not being a mom, to having no friends, now being a mom, how would this have affected me? And I just have to say that I would like to think that I would have allowed God to use it for good, social media, to connect me to people. But the more I think about it, I think it would have driven me more into a lonely and dark place. And so mamas of 2 or 1 or of just 3 little kids, or maybe you don't have a community yet, maybe you have a lot of kids, but you don't feel like you've connected with 1 or 2 other strong Christian mom friends. Look, we get it. I am here for you. I have been there. I have to constantly remind myself not to go back there. And so these are the words that kind of fell onto my heart this morning that I'm hoping to revisit myself so that I don't fall back into those same temptations. And so I was reading this morning about David when he was in his stronghold. Saul was out to get him. Saul wanted to kill him, and he was hiding. And he actually, at this point, in his isolation, he had about 600 men with him, and there were also women and children. They had been living together for a year and 4 months in an area called Gath. And he was actually in Philistine territory, and he was being held under the protection of Achish. Okay. And so Achish was using David, thinking, I'll protect him. I'll use him to my benefit. And then he'll be my servant forever, because remember, Saul was out to get him. Saul was the king. Other people were not really willing to help him at this point, except for this group of men who are described as being, debtors and disillusioned people who kind of just didn't fit in anywhere in Saul's kingdom. And so here they are in this area. David's in the stronghold, and they had been living together. They had been raiding villages, plundering other villages, which it's not specified whether or not God was calling them to do that. But they were also protecting one another for over a year, and so they were living in very, very close community with one another. They obviously got to know each other, whether they liked or disliked each other, but this was in real life. This was not on Facebook or Instagram, and so they got to see the real ins and outs of each other's lives. And I think that matters. That makes a difference. If you're replacing social media with real community, you might want to pray about that and see where God would maybe have you plug in somewhere and connect. Maybe that's with one or two other women. Maybe it's with more of a community at large, a small group Bible study or something like that. But that just helps us to put into perspective what real life really is like. Because social media is not real life. Okay? I just want to say that again. Social media is not real life. God can use it for good, or Satan can use it for bad, and it's our choice whether or not we're going to go down that path. I truly believe that it can be used as a counterfeit of Satan to mimic the good community in real life that God has planned for you. And if we replace that, that is just not where God wants us to be. Okay? So then what ends up happening is David and his men are actually getting ready to go out and fight with the Philistines and Achish against the Israelites. So they're mounting an attack. And some of the other commanding officers of the Philistines were talking to Achish, and they're like, this is not a good idea. He might want to win back Saul's favor, and he might actually turn against us in the middle of battle. So I don't think this is a good idea. And so Achish, he vouched for David, but they weren't going along with it. And so Achish sent David back, said, go back to where you came from. You haven't done anything wrong, but they just don't think this is a good idea. And so David listened. Then him and all of his men turned back. And what they came back to was a village destroyed. It was plundered. It was burnt by who knows. And so they come back to their women and children abducted. They're gone. And what ends up happening is David's men end up turning on him. And they say, this is your fault. We're going to stone you. And the men are weeping for their women and children. And David, certainly, he lost two of his wives, which 2 wives, not a good start anyway, but he lost both of his wives as well during this time. And so they're weeping. And then the Bible tells us that David found his hope and his strength in the Lord. And so certainly at some point, David felt like, this is my fault. This is because I was anointed king, and I maybe could have done something to prevent this. We're not told that, but if you can imagine how he felt in these circumstances, he certainly felt alone, but he did turn to the one who is able to give us our strength. And I know this seems like maybe kind of an extreme example when we're talking about social media and mom friends, but God can use his word in any situation. He can speak life into any situation that he wants to. And so, this was the situation that he used to speak to my heart in social media this morning, and friends and community and all that. And so they were ready to stone him. And so I kind of asked myself, why is this situation actually reminding me of social media and mom friends? I don't know if this actually really makes sense to me. And then I just began to write, and this is what I wrote. In short, we are fighting the wrong enemy. We see another mom and think we know her by what she posts. The truth is that we don't. Number 1, you do not know a person by social media. Not even close. Number 2, you cannot tell if another mom likes you by what she likes and comments on. You may think you can, but you don't. Not even close. I've thought this was true before. I really have. I thought that I knew a person by what she likes and comments on. Number 3, there is stuff social media does not show you. You can't assume you know all of what a mom does on social media because you can't. Not even close. Facebook and Instagram, they only show you what they want to show you. Okay. And so there is information that is just missing there. And we need to realize that and accept that to understand that there's some deception by omission that's taking place there. Okay. Number 4, just because moms have a good social media relationship doesn't mean they are best friends. Ooh, okay. So this is true. This is very, very true. Moms can be very different in social media than they are. And I wrote IRL because it's true. It is so true. Moms can be different on social media and they can look like they're super buds. And maybe they are, but maybe they're not. Okay. And so just think about that when you're seeing these interactions and you're thinking that that relates to you somehow. It does not. Number 5, unless someone tells you face to face and in person, don't accept anything you hear or see as truth. We as women and moms have a tendency to project how we feel onto other people. This is especially true through the social media process because we don't have all that goes with the telling of the story. We don't have all the information. We don't have the heart motives. It comes to you through a person's perspective, which is inherently flawed due to our sinful nature. So you're only getting one side of what that story is. You're not getting God's version of that story like we get to see in the Bible and God's word. In this situation, through David and Achish and his men, this is God's perspective on their story, not David's perspective on the story. And so that matters. That makes a huge difference. So anything that somebody posts, a story about anything, it's coming from their perspective. Would it be a fair representation if both people were sitting there live on Facebook, hashing that thing out? Well, yeah, of course it was, but of course it would. But is that going to happen? No, not very likely. So sometimes even when I post something good that one of my children or I have done, something that I'm kind of excited about, I'll feel disingenuous because 5 minutes earlier, there was just this giant fit over a cookie, and so, but we can't possibly share and post all of the things at the exact same moment. And so if I'm on Facebook and I'm just talking about, I want to connect with moms and I want to say, oh, moms, I get you. Momming is hard. Life is hard. This stuff is difficult. And I just start sharing all of like the sort of negative types of things that happen, I'm being disingenuous there also because I'm not sharing some of the small little victories and moments that God has for us, all, sort of sprinkled throughout the day. Well, now if I'm sharing all of the goodness and I'm withholding, the craziness and the joyful chaos, sure, it's always joyful. No, it's not always joyful. But if I'm withholding those things, then I'm also being disingenuous. And so how do we deal with that? We just have to understand that there are limitations that social media has. There are limitations there that we need to recognize and acknowledge before we go placing idols on other women or on social media or on other relationships that people have. Okay. And so number 6, online community can be good, but not if it is replacing IRL community in real life. We cannot replace these things because then we assume we are either right or wrong based off of people's likes on our posts, responses, or comments to our social media interactions. Moms, this is not truth. Just because somebody likes something, they really might not like it, or they really might not like you. Ouch. Ouch. It's not that social media isn't worth pursuing relationships through. It's that we need to keep the right perspective in mind. All of these reasons are causing us to see one another, other moms, as the enemy. This is not true. If you talked about many of the things you post about IRL, I know you would find at least one thing you could agree on, or one thing you could agree to disagree on, or just decide that it isn't someone you would rather spend your time with, and that is okay. Not everybody is going to be somebody that you're going to want to spend all your time with. And these are the people that we share time with on Facebook And maybe, Satan is using it to take us down a different path where it's twisting our hearts and our minds towards that person. Before social media, before Facebook, we just wouldn't see that person. We wouldn't see anything about that person's life. Instead of building a laundry list of things and reasons why we don't like that person, we just would not see them. We would not call them. We would not talk to them. Or if we did, it would be in passing, and we would be able to put that in the right perspective because it's IRL, right? In real life. See, David's men were ready to stone him. But they should have been focusing their energy on turning to the Lord for their strength, which is what David did, and attacking the real enemy that destroyed, plundered, and abducted their families. This story, it does have a happy ending, and it can be found in the Bible. In 1 Samuel chapter 30, please go and read it for yourself. Pray for God to show you who the real enemy is, moms. It is not other moms. Just because somebody or doesn't like your post does not make them the enemy. And maybe that is taking a little bit of a too far perspective for you, but maybe we can stop assuming that whether or not somebody likes or doesn't like or shares or doesn't share our post, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with our relationship. Maybe she just got busy and had to walk away from her phone. Maybe we shouldn't expect people to comment on all of our posts. Maybe I'm speaking to my own heart, but maybe I'm not. Maybe there's other women out there who feel like some of this has gotten twisted. And if I was still that lonely mom of two, how would that make me feel? I have women that I can bounce these things off of now. I have trusted friends who I can share this stuff with. And if I didn't, what path would that send me down? Would it draw me closer to Christian community? Or would it push me farther away? Would I want to say, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be any part of that. So ask God to show you who the real enemy is, moms. I guarantee it is not another mom. Don't let Satan tell you that lie. Don't let him whisper that lie to your heart. Remember, even with Eve in the garden, Satan didn't give an outright blatant lie. No, it was a mild twist, a mild deception of what God had said. A very gentle twist, but just enough to shift her perspective, to get her to fall into that sin. And we are no different. Mamas, please turn to God. Ask him to share good friends with you, good, godly Christian women who are going to point you to him, draw you closer to him and closer in the Christian community. And I promise you will be blessed. He will answer that prayer. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Hey, moms, listen, if you need more encouragement and you don't have time to watch or to read different, authors, which I've got plenty of those, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to try and bring these podcasts so that we can listen in while we're doing the dishes and be encouraged while, the kids are going crazy. Okay. So have a great weekend. It's Friday. Hopefully your husbands are home to help you this weekend. Bye-bye.